and welcome to the Rest is Football with Alan Shearer, Micah Richards and me, Gary Lineker. We've all enjoyed another, could we describe it as gripping weekend of Premier League action? It saw Liverpool's 26-game unbeaten run come to an end and Southampton suffer the earliest relegation in Premier League history. We'll come on to all that very soon, but we'll start with the Manchester derby. Micah, you're in the back of a car. You've just been broadcasting all day. We were watching you. I think it's fair to say that wasn't the best Manchester derby we've ever seen.
Oh my God, lads! I was floundering. I'm thinking we've got an hour to fill afterwards. For those who are watching or listening, I'm in the car back, so excuse the picture. It's not going to be crystal clear. But honestly, an hour after, I was thinking, what are we going to say? What are we going to say? United, we know what they do. They're going to play their system. They're going to go into a low block. Man City didn't exploit the width in the game. And then you're thinking, okay, the first half is drab. The second half is going to open up a little bit. But the second half, bar 10 minutes maybe, was exactly the same. And I couldn't believe what I was watching. I'm going to go as far to say that's one of the dullest derbies I've ever watched. And that's from my time since I've been at Man City from I was 14 years old. They just had nothing at all. It was actually quite sad to see the game play out like that. And you're looking for a little bit of atmosphere. The United fans give us a little bit when United had a few of their moments. But in the main, it was disappointing to say the least.
I mean, it just never got going at all, did it? There was barely actually a really decent chance in the game. Header from Manchester United. Xerxes had half a chance. City were, I thought, really flat. They are struggling. It's incredible what's happened to Manchester City, isn't it?
Yeah, I would agree with you, Mike. I mean, it was one of the worst derby games I've ever seen. And even like before the game, I thought it was like really flat in the crowd. And then I thought the first 5 minutes, okay, it's going to get going in a minute. But it never did. I mean, there was no energy. There wasn't a buzz about either team. There was no pace to either team's game. There was a period of a minute or two in the first half where there must have been 7 or 8 players gave the ball away. Yeah. Like within a minute, it was like, you have it, and I will give it back to you, or someone else, and then you give it. It was like, oh my goodness, what has happened to some of these like great players? It was like incredible. It was so flat, and yeah, it was terrible watch.
It's like they've been space jammed. If you've ever seen that movie, where players of unbelievable basketball ability lose all their powers. Manchester City, you look at them now and the difference in, remember the City for the last few years where every time, even when they lost the ball, that immediate high energetic press, they just haven't got that within them at the present moment in time. Yeah, it's sort of baffling really to understand why. Maybe, a number of players have perhaps just gone over their top of their prime all at the same time, and therefore the energy levels have dropped, understandably. But, there's still a lot of top-class players out there, particularly for Manchester City, you would have thought. But, yeah, they're a long way off it. They're a long way off it, and they have been all season. But I thought last few weeks, I thought signs of a little bit of something, but not in this game.
What I've noticed, though, with City, you make a good point there, Gary, that the pressing, so they're not committing to the press. And then when Fernandes was getting the ball between the lines, they can't get back either. So they're not doing anything. They're sort of just in between the two positions. Like, it was so evident to see in the game. I know he was a little bit higher up, but like, O'Reilly's playing left back. He's come into the team, done ever so well. But he needs to get high and wide. United were playing with 5, but they wasn't playing a wide 5. They was playing very narrow, almost like a Christmas tree at times in the way they was not letting players get in the middle of the pitch. But it took, normally, with Man City, why they've been so great over the years, they can figure out in games what's needed. And they didn't figure out on the pitch what was needed. And everything was just too slow. And I mean, the players, look, they've been amazing. They've been fantastic over the last 4 years, but they need a little bit of a freshen up now. They need something. They're missing that spark of what they've had of old. And yeah, it was sad to see the tempo of the game, because these have been some great players for Man City, but today, yeah, it wasn't great at all. It wasn't a great watch.
I would agree. I mean, when you look at City's midfield in terms of Gundogan, De Bruyne, Silva, who else was
Kovacic.
in there? Kovacic. They struggled. There were no legs in the midfield. There was no energy. Yes, incredible players in that time, but maybe you're right, Gaz. I don't know. Maybe all of them have gone over that top of the hill in terms of at the same time. I don't know. Or mentally and physically knackered with what they've achieved over the years. They've had to work so hard for it and be so determined and focused and all of those things. I don't know. It looks as if they're really, really tired.
I wonder as well whether psychologically the fact that they've always been in big games, always challenging for the title, some great run-ins to the season, then all of a sudden there's not quite as much at stake, and subconsciously whether the motivating factor has disappeared a little bit because of that. But it really is, I think it is a case of that, the legs, because for all the brilliance of Guardiola's football and keeping the ball and possession and getting it and winning it back quickly, it does need real energy, and you just can't see that in the team at the moment. I'm sure he recognises it. So it'll be interesting to see, very much so, I think, what they'll do next season. I think it'll be quite fascinating to see whether he can get them anywhere near back to where they were. I suspect they'll go big in the transfer market as they did in the window in January, if they can, of course. We don't know. And obviously there's the court case with probably waiting to see the result of that. Should come, I think, before the beginning of next season. But yeah, it's. I don't think anyone could have foreseen what's happened to them this season. Manchester United, we know they're massively in transition. They've got a new coach who wants to play a certain way, hasn't really got the players to suit him at present. He's going to stick by his guns. And I suppose the important thing for them now is, well, they know how he wants to play. So you've got to recruit to get the right sort of individuals to make that particular system workable. But yeah, it was a really poor game. But we don't want to talk too much about that. But maybe I think it's a good time, because obviously since we last spoken, Kevin De Bruyne has announced that he's leaving at the end of the season. It's been a tough season for him as well. He's had one or two injuries and it's not really happened. But what a wonderful, wonderful footballer he's been for the Premier League. Definitely one of the Premier League greats.
He would, without a shadow of a doubt, be in my top Premier League 11 ever. You would have to find a place for him with what he's achieved. And I've always said it. I mean, I was so jealous of watching him putting balls in for centre. If there was one player I could have looked back and thought, oh my God, I would love to have played in the same team as you, it would have been him. Because his crosses, his passes, he's just, everything about him is class. And what he's won, what he's achieved, he will without doubt go down as a Premier League giant, a Premier League great.
I wanted to ask you, you said all-time Premier League 11. Who's your midfield then, Alan? Who would your all-time midfield be then?
I mean, when we talk, where we got Roy Keane, Vieira, Scholes, Gerrard, Lampard. There's no doubt I would find a place for him. Perhaps off the top of my head, and don't shoot me down at the minute, the way I'm feeling this evening, I would go maybe De Bruyne, Scholes and Gerrard.
Oh, I like it.
I'm surprised Tonali and Guimaraes aren't in there. And Joe Linton.
Give it 3 or 4 years and it'll change, don't worry.
Yeah, I mean, it's an impossible to pick 3 or 4 out of that lot. I mean, they're also so brilliant, but he's right up there. You're absolutely right.
Would you not have him in your Premier League 11, Micah?
It's a good question, Alan, and that's exactly why I asked you. I probably would, yes. I was doing some stats on Sky. He's got, I think, 118 assists in a fraction of the games of the others. Yes, we're talking about maybe attacking midfield. Gerrard would always be in my team because I believe he was all round the best player I've ever watched in the Premier League. Coming up against him, I just thought it was phenomenal. But the numbers that De Bruyne has put in them key areas, I think he sneaks in as well. I mean, he's been at Man City 10 years. And, you know, over the fact that we've had some success in the modern history and we've had Yaya Toure and David Silva, Vincent Kompany, Aguero and all that, I think he's the best out of all them players. And Yaya Toure and David Silva are always my favourites. But I think Kevin De Bruyne now has just ousted them guys. So, yeah, I probably would just have him in my all-time Premier League 11. I agree with you, Alan.
Can't we just go, we've got a big squad? Put Vieira, Keane, Scholes.
Get off that fence, will you? Get off that fence.
Well, it's just impossible otherwise. I mean, it really is, because whoever you pick, you're going to go, well, how can he not get in? So, but I totally concur that De Bruyne would have to be very much in that conversation, and we wish him well. We wish him well with whatever he does next, because he's been an absolute delight to watch over the last almost a decade. Let's go on to, well, it's quite fascinating that Liverpool have had a dip at this time, yet no one has been able to apply the pressure just behind, because Arsenal obviously had not quite managed the results and again they slipped up at Everton yesterday. Bit of controversy about the penalty. We spoke about it on Match of the Day last night. We thought it was very, very soft, Micah.
Agreed. That's never a pen. Come on.
No, I don't think it's a penalty.
I was watching it thinking, it's a foul the other way. And then in the end, they sort of tangle a little bit, but that's never, ever, ever a pen.
Yeah, very, very soft. I agree. Yeah. So I thought it was very harsh. Yeah.
Liverpool have got such a cushion, though, that even the defeat, we're doing this on Sunday evening, obviously, but even the defeat to Fulham, yes, they've had a hiccup in terms of their form, but they're so far clear. There's no way that they've run away with it. But that was a good game. The Fulham Liverpool.
Sorry, before you move on, guys, I just want to say, just from Arsenal's point of view, they've pushed Man City over the last 2 seasons. Then this season, they have big injuries. Jesus gets injured. Havertz gets injured. Gabriel gets injured at the wrong time. Timber has had his knock. Saka. You're kicking themselves. And everyone will talk about Arsenal bottling or whatever, but I'm just thinking injuries at the wrong times is just absolutely. They must be kicking themselves, because you can't do anything about that. Maybe on the flip side, could they got anyone in January when they know that the squad's got so many games, but they've done so well. And in the season where Man City have been off, Liverpool go and take it. So. Yeah, I just wanted to say that from an Arsenal's point of view.
Up until today, though, Liverpool have been pretty relentless.
Oh, yeah.
Even when they haven't played well, they've done what every great team has to do. They've just somehow managed to get results, and they've been absolutely magnificent, and they've earned this gap. I mean, they're going to win it. It's just a matter of when. And even when they scored today, when McAllister scored that absolute rocket, I thought, here we go. But then give great credit to, I know Liverpool were terrible, and we haven't said this many times this season.
Had an off
Liverpool
day.
were awful. They were awful defensively. I mean, Van Dijk got the run around. Robertson had an absolute nightmare. Kanate didn't do as well as he normally does. So defensively, they were awful, and I don't think we've said that at all this season. So you're right. They're due. They were. You let them have an off day, but it's just a matter of when. But I thought Fulham were absolutely fantastic.
Me too. I thought they played really well. I mean, it's Liverpool's first Premier League defeat for 26 games, so that says it all, doesn't it? They have been remarkably consistent in the league, but yeah, Fulham. I mean, the first half performance from Fulham, a couple of brilliant finishes as well.
Monies, guys, you've got to talk about that finish. The touch,
outstanding,
the turn, and then the composure as well. Wow.
It was a great. I mean, even the way he give Van Dijk a little nudge, just enough to put him off balance. But you're right, Micah. I mean, the touch, with it coming from however high it came from, to put it perfectly into his path. I mean, it was unreal, the touch, and then the finish was magnificent. Wasn't it? What incredible goal! None
of the top 5 won this weekend, which was excellent news for the chasing pack for Champions League places, Alan, including Newcastle, obviously Aston Villa as well. Sorry, Michael, mentioning Newcastle, but I think it's relevant.
I never mentioned it, guys. You brought Newcastle into the
I just wanted to get ahead of you.
Yeah, good. It can only be a good weekend if they go and if they go and get the 3 points this evening against Leicester. So
That's a tough one.
Fingers crossed. Well, let's hope not.
So where are you off to in that car, Mike? I can see you sitting there nice, comfortably. Good to see you've got your seatbelt on, doing all the right things.
Safety first, guys. Safety first. I'm on the way home after a long day. I mean, like you said, the first game was a cracking one. Super Sunday, Fulham, Liverpool, and then the second one not so. But I've had a great day. How
did you manage to fill that last hour then? Did you start talking?
You must have been talking some shit for an hour about that game, were you? The derby, were you?
That's the good thing about doing a podcast, because you can just go into podcast mode, can't you?
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
That is the thing. You sit your feet up, and as with Izzy Christensen, Gary Neville came up after the game as well, Roy Keane made some good points about sort of the standards of Man United have dropped, and we're sort of praising them for a draw. And my point was that it's very difficult for players to go into a new system when a manager is so adamant that you're going to play the system. And at times they were so deep in the games, we talked about it a little bit earlier, it's like, what they expect them to do from those positions, the only way they can really score is on a counter-attack, because when they win the ball back, they're in their own half. And, I talked to Roy about his positioning and his teams, and he talks a lot about mentality, Roy. But, I mean, this team has a different mentality. Their standards are a little bit different. But I have to say, Bruno Fernandes, the form that he's been in,
class, yeah.
Especially of late, but I think the whole season is their best player by far. Even when he's playing in the number 10 or he drops back into a number 6, he just dictates everything. And God knows where they'd be without him, because again, I thought he had a really good game again today.
He sometimes shows his frustrations, but you can understand why. I mean, he must be pulling his hair out.
Do you see any improvement with Man United?
No.
I don't either.
Defensively a little bit, I think.
Do you?
Defensively, I think the players are getting to grips with where they need to be. And the reason I say that, because, they got a draw against Arsenal, weren't they? They won against Man City in the return fixture. So against bigger teams, defensively, they know what they're doing. It's now the next step, isn't it? How to get from back to front quicker, how they can get players who are going to hurt you in better positions.
Said that 6 months ago.
Well, despite their difficulties this season, Manchester United could conceivably win the Europa League, and Manchester City could quite possibly win the FA Cup, and then we'll all be going, well, it's not a bad season, all in all. But, I mean, they've got different problems, both those clubs. But I think United, they give him. He needs a couple of windows, I think, to get the players in that really are suited to his system. I think we've got give him that. I actually admire the fact that he's been quite stubborn. If that's what he believes in, at least he's going to. If it doesn't work, he'll fall on his own sword. I mean, I just think if you suddenly go, well, I'll try something else, and that just probably breeds more confusion. But yeah, we'll see what happens for the remainder of this season.
He definitely needs windows. He needs at least two or three windows to try and bring as many in as possible, if they're able to.
Okay, well, we'll finish shortly. I just want to ask you, Micah, you'll be doing Champions League this week. Are you at a game? Are you in the studio, CBS?
No, in the studio. I thought we were going to go to the game.
No way.
They're sending Thierry Henry out to the Emirates, and we're in the studio. Me, Kate and Jamie are in the studio while Thierry gets to go to the stadium. We've all had our little travels. Carragher went to Liverpool. I went to Italy, and now it's Thierry's time to go to Arsenal. So.
And Alan, you're doing reminders. Which game?
I'm doing co-coms, Arsenal Madrid on Tuesday as well.
What
so
a game
I'll see
that
Thierry, brilliant. I can't wait. It's going to be an amazing
We've talked about that. And anyway, well, safe travels, Micah. Alan and myself will carry on in the second half. We'll do a shift for you.
Don't you worry, Micah. We've got your back. You go and get yourself and have a pint at home. We'll do the rest of the shift.
Do I still get my fair share of the monthly invoice?
But of course, Micah. Thanks for joining us, making the effort after a long day. Brilliant stuff. Alan, we'll talk after this break. Welcome back to The Rest is Football with, just Alan Shearer and me now, Gary Lineker. Let's start with perhaps Southampton, the first team to be relegated this season. I think we know the other two are going to be.
Yep.
3-1 defeat at Spurs. It's the earliest relegation in Premier League history. 7 games left of the season. The previous record was 6. It must have been tough being, well, I know what it's like because it's not been too dissimilar at Leicester, but it's been tough for the 3 promoted teams this season, hasn't it?
It's been more than tough. It's been nigh on impossible. There wasn't one stage of this season that I've ever thought any of the clubs that came up could actually stay up. It's been that bad, unfortunately, for all 3 of them. I thought Ipswich would have the best chance. But yeah, I've been a bit disappointed with them more than the other 2 because I didn't hold much hope for Southampton and Leicester. I know you did, but I thought Ipswich would have put up a better fight. But it's been the same old story for Ipswich every single week defensively, so bad. I mean, and they spent the right few quid as well, didn't they, in last summer to try and stay up, but. Unfortunately, it hasn't worked for him. I guess perhaps the only one that can come out with a lot of credit would be Delap, and
he's done really well.
He's done really well because it's tough scoring goals in a struggling team. It's tough standing out in a struggling team, but he has actually done that, and he'll have a decision to make because there's no doubt that there'll be other clubs that come in for him, but. Yeah, I mean, it's sad to see. I mean, my old club, Southampton, been terrible, awful, really, really poor. It is really hard to watch because they work so hard, these clubs, to get up.
Yeah.
And you can see the euphoria, when they all get up and the excitement and all of that. And then from day one, basically, it's just been so flat.
That's 2 seasons running now where it'll be the bottom 3 that were promoted the previous season that will go down. Why do you think that is? Because it's not only going down, but by this season by quite some considerable distance. Do you think the PSR rules are playing a part? I mean, Leicester, for example, got promoted and they had to sell their local boy at Dewsbury Hall at the start because he was a local lad and, it helps you with the PSR rules and stuff like that. So he was the best player in the Championship last season. So it makes it difficult. Having said that, Leicester were actually reasonably competitive under Cooper and were never really in the bottom 3. Since then, it's been a bit of a debacle, really. Southampton... I never really thought they had the players to do it. Incidentally, just to let you know, I interviewed Russell Martin last week, and that'll go out on Wednesday. Which was really, really good, actually. I really enjoyed it. He had quite the upbringing and talking about his philosophies in football and how he got where he is. And prior to this season, it had all gone very well for him. But I think ultimately none of the bottom 3 had enough talent in their squads to probably compete. No,
I mean, you mentioned the PSR rules in terms of Leicester. On the other side of that, though, Ipswich spent the right few quid, and they're almost gone. I mean, their result against Wolves paid to any bit of hope. They had to win that game against Wolves, I think, to give themselves a fighting chance. And they were winning 1-0, but same old problems again in the second half, defensively all over the place, particularly for the winning goal. I think it's a combination of both, the gap between the Championship and I guess whoever comes up from the Championship this year, whether it's going to be Burnley, whether it's going to be Leeds, whether it's going to be Sheffield United. I guess that whoever it is, that the 3 who come up will probably, they will. They'll have the same problems as what these 3 and the 3 last year had to put up with. So I think it's a combination of all those things.
Do you think these rules are now going against the smaller clubs in a way? Because I think when they were brought in, and I understand why they were brought in for the right reasons, to protect clubs perhaps from themselves.
Yeah.
But it's got to the stage now where it's almost a closed shop in terms of trying to compete with the very top because they've managed to do their thing earlier.
I don't like them. I mean, if you use the words profitability and sustainability, that's what it says, isn't it?
Yep.
So let's use Newcastle as an example. Now, they let them in the league. They agreed everything for the owners to come in there. There are no other club or no other country that's more profitable and more sustainable than Newcastle United. Yet they can't spend what they want. I mean, that for me just doesn't add up at all. So no, I'm not for them. I don't like them. They were brought in for a specific reason, and that reason is not helping a lot of clubs do what they want to do. I guess maybe Aston Villa are in the same boat. They had to sell. I mean, their business has been really good. They had to sell Douglas Luiz last year, didn't they? But their recruitment, I think, and who they've brought in and got rid of and what have you has worked really well for them. But no, it doesn't. I'm not a fan of it. No.
No, the recruitment becomes even more.
Yeah.
You need to be absolutely precise.
Yeah,
don't you?
Absolutely.
I don't think any of the promoted clubs really added much to what they already had. I think.
No. I guess there needs to be a rethink of how and what makes it work and why those rules were brought in, and they weren't brought in for when you mentioned the clubs that we've mentioned.
It's funny, isn't it? You see these teams struggle in the Premier League, then they go down, and I mean the three that came up the previous season went down. Obviously, last season, two of them are right at the top. Burnley and Sheffield United. Luton have kind of fallen away.
Yeah.
But Leeds, who just missed out, didn't they, last season on getting promoted, were there again.
But I guess it's the parachute payments, isn't it? That sort of makes them a real threat in when they go back down. They've got all that money that they're being given in terms of the Championship to try and get back up. Then they're always going to be the strongest. I mean, Luton's a different kettle of fish because it's incredible what's happened to them. I mean, it was amazing that they got up in the first place because they were just not. They weren't ready for it was just too early for them, wasn't it, to come into the Premier League. And I guess you could perhaps say the same about Ipswich because their rise, promotion. It's a huge ask, isn't it, to go 1-2 and then again to step up to the Premier League. So the parachute payments don't often make a big help for the teams that are being relegated. Yeah,
it's quite hard being Leicester fan at the moment. We've been through the glory years though, and we're going back to being perhaps a yo-yo club, which we've probably been for most of our history. They can't take away that Premier League win that they had, and you know for 2 or 3 seasons, they were really close to getting in the Champions League, finished 5th twice, won the FA Cup. And it just shows you that, but since then, it's kind of fallen apart, obviously change at the top, the terrible loss of the owner. His son's taken over. It's not been quite as smooth in things. Rudkin's come in as, director of football, but it's not really the recruitment that had been so good for quite a long time. It's suddenly not been, and suffered the consequences. But it's tough. But
you're talking like this, and you haven't even seen Newcastle kick your backside yet on Monday evening, because this is being recorded on Sunday evening, and Leicester don't even play until Monday night. Tonight.
Don't gloat until the game's. Don't, because you never know what you do. But
I know.
You never know.
Right.
You never know.
It might come back to bite me.
I suspect it probably won't. In terms of the Ipswich Wolves game, Wolves came from behind in that match.
Yeah.
I spoke to the manager after the head coach. Vitor Pereira, and he's still saying, no, I don't want my players thinking we're safe yet. I don't want that in the dressing room. You understand that? That's just,
I get it. Yeah.
They're always going to say that.
He can't say that, we can.
But he's done a very good job there, Alan.
Very, very good job, yeah. It was a tough, I said earlier, didn't I, about that, there was never once that I thought anyone other than the promoted clubs were going to go down. I mean, there was a time where, Wolves were in trouble, and they made the decision to sack the manager and bring Vitor Pereira in. And I think ever since then, he's really done a fantastic job. He's calmed everything down. Mm-hmm. He's got Cunha, who's a very, very good player, but he knows that he's a bit of a maverick, and he's been suspended for the last 4 games. They've won 3 and drawn 1. And my guess is that he signed a contract perhaps to get Wolves some money in the summer. Which would have a clause in there, so he'll leave in the summer and someone will buy him. So I don't suspect he'll play a big part in what Wolves do in the future. But I think they've looked a better team actually without him in the last 4 games. I know the opposition might have been favourable, but Strand Larsen stood up and scored goals, and again he got the winner yesterday. So Wolves are more than all right now, and you would think that with the money they'll bring in and the money they'll hopefully invest in this summer, that they'll be a better outfit in the Premier League next season than they have been this season.
I always thought it was unlikely that they go down, Wolves.
Yeah.
They've got
too much quality.
They've got a lot of good players in their squad, and I think obviously they had their problems. And they had a really tough start to the season fixture-wise, didn't they? If you remember.
They did. Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
And they've bounced back really well in the second half of the season. Let's move on to, I suppose, the big game yesterday was Aston Villa and Forest. It's really tight around the Champions League spots. Obviously, your boys are going strong, until you get humbled by the mighty Foxes tonight. And Aston Villa going really well, aren't they? I mean, what a run. Their recruitment has been excellent, hasn't it?
It didn't half help them from who they signed in the January window has made them a much better outfit for the remaining 5 months of the season from January onwards. Really, really clever. They had to do that in terms of because they lost John Duran, didn't they, for big money? I think that was a great deal, and they've used that money wisely and done really, really well. They're bringing on the likes of Rashford, they're bringing on McGinn, and several others. Conser, I think, came on, did he?
Yeah, he's kind of rotating a little bit, because obviously he's going on the Champions League. They've got the FA Cup semi-final coming up as well against Crystal Palace. So they're talking about tight for the Champions League spots, Alan. Currently, I suppose, I would say Liverpool, obviously, they're going to win the league. Arsenal almost certainly be second, and Forest most probably third, but unless they capitulate. But then you've got Chelsea on 53 points, City on 52, Villa 51, Newcastle 50, even Fulham on 48. You've got 2 games in hand, Newcastle, on the 4 teams above you. In fact, all the teams above you. So if you win both of those, you'll go quite comfortably into 4th place. So hopeful?
Yeah, I really am hopeful. Yeah, I would hope that the good form that Newcastle are in and the good feeling that the club should have. Leicester this evening, their game in hand is Crystal Palace at home. I know they've got to play Aston Villa as well, but Palace and Villa still in the semi-finals of the FA Cup, and I think Newcastle play the both of them just before, maybe 10 days or a week before. So, yeah, I am hopeful. Yeah, I would be slightly disappointed if Newcastle weren't to make the top 4 or the top 5.
Back to Villa, you were eulogising the performance once again of Morgan Rogers. We all rate him, but I think you're a particular fan, aren't you?
I am. I'm a huge fan. You can't be anything but a huge fan, because the way he travels with the ball and the way he just sort of glides past players and the strength. It's one thing travelling with the ball, but when you're getting hit off midfielders or defenders, he sort of just bounces off them, doesn't he? And the great balance, you need great balance for that, and to be level both left and right foot. Yeah, and his goal yesterday, the touch, oh my goodness. Say what you want about the defending. I think it was Morato, wasn't it, that was playing with his shin pads or whatever and switched off. But the touch and the finish was just outstanding, and he is a real talent.
Yeah, I think at the beginning of the season we'd recognised that talent, but we were saying we just needs to get that final pass right and the final finish. But now I think that's 13 goals and 9 assists, if I remember rightly, from last night.
Brilliant.
Which is that is really answering that, isn't it? And even when we spoke to him early in the season, he recognised that himself, that he wanted to improve his numbers, and he's most certainly done that, hasn't he?
Absolutely, outstanding. Yeah, he's and it's noticeable that with the number of players they have now, Villa, he seems to be a constant in there. He's not getting rested as much as the others, which I think tells you how important he is to Unai Emery and Aston Villa.
Big week coming up for them, isn't it?
Massive. Yeah.
First leg against PSG. They're
Huge
quite,
game.
I think I saw the betting today, not that I'm much of a gambler, but I think PSG were very, very strong favourites at 4-1 on, and Villa 3-1. I don't see it as that far apart.
I think it'll be a lot
and I think
tighter
Emery's got a fantastic record in European football. PSG, they were brilliant against Liverpool, but can they play that well again? They're really well coached as well, of course, by Luis Enrique. But I think it's a little bit tough. I think PSG quite rightly should be favourites, but I don't see it as quite that far apart. But then bookies are not easily wrong.
I would agree with that. Yeah, I would have them PSG favourites, but I think it'll be a really tight affair in both games. I think Unai Emery knows Europe and the games and how to play them like the back of his hand. He's an expert in those games, so he'll have his tactics and he'll know what he will want his team to do. If they can come away with a decent result on Wednesday in Paris, then you can imagine the atmosphere at Villa Park if they're right in the tie. What
do you think a good result would be, Alan? Just trailing by one or draw?
Yeah, a draw would be a great. I think a draw would be a great result. It really would, and with the atmosphere that Villa Park generates on those types of evenings. I mean, we've seen it this season already in Villa Park. It'll be a fascinating tie over two legs. Now I'm doing that second leg at Villa Park, and it'll be really exciting. I really hope they're in the game because it'll be a special night.
I'll be surprised if they're not. I memean,
me too.
They've been superb. Another team going really well, Crystal Palace, Alan, won, the derby down there. What do they call it? The M23 derby?
Something like that, yeah.
They're playing really well. And obviously they'll meet Aston Villa in the Cup semi-final in a few weeks' time. I had lunch actually with Steve Parish last week, and it was kind of celebratory lunch because they got to Wembley.
Was he in good form?
He was in great form. He was absolutely buzzing. And I didn't realise that Palace had never won a major trophy in their history. They went close, of course, with the FA Cup, didn't they, with
Man United?
They went ahead against Man United, and I think it's about 8 minutes to go, didn't you? And Alan Pardew's dancing thing, which came back to haunt him a little bit. So, I mean, it'd be tough against Aston Villa, but they're a good side. Some very, very good players. Mateta's cracking goal yesterday, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a brilliant. They've got some talented players. Wharton, Mateta, Gehi, Munoz on the two wing backs, because they play that three at the back, don't they? And they do it very, very well.
Yeah. Eze and Wharton. Wharton's really good.
Yeah, I mean, you got it. You mentioned Parish because he was under a bit of pressure, weren't they, at the beginning of the season, where they couldn't get results for love nor money. Yeah, they stuck with him, and without doubt, it's been a great decision because it could be an unbelievable season for Crystal Palace, as it could be for so many other clubs. We mentioned Forest and Palace, Villa, and it's like obviously Newcastle. Yeah. It's like so many teams have impressed this season, and I wouldn't put it past Palace because of particularly with the forward players they've got. They can hurt anyone. Oh, no question about that. I mean, they had a really tough start to the season, but they've rallied really well when they got their players fit and in form again. And they had to fight. They had to fight a bit yesterday as well with the sendings off. It's
I know, three sendings off in one game.
I thought the Eddie Nketiah one, you got booked for diving, didn't you? I thought that was really, really harsh.
Yeah, he definitely clipped him. At first sight, we thought maybe he did dive, but I don't think he is. I don't think he did. But
no.
Let's finish on the Championship. We've been following that the last few weeks. Burnley having an amazingly long run, unbeaten run, 27 games now, 6 games left of the season. They've sneaked top because Leeds have stuttered and did so again. So it's Burnley 84, Sheffield United 83, Leeds 82.
So tight, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine going? All three of them are going bang, 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 and one of them's going to miss out on automatic promotion and have to go through the dreaded playoffs, which we've seen so many times. That third team quite often never gets the success in the playoffs, does it? So one of them is going to be absolutely devastated. They're going to have to do it that way. So
devastated that they can stay in the Championship possibly next season and win a few football matches.
not when you've been going neck and neck with the other.
You want to be
clubs.
In the Premier League.
Devastated. Yeah, that's it. It is. It's the euphoria of getting up. It's the chance to play. And I know it can bring a lot of hard heartache as it did last season for the clubs that came up, and it has done this season for the clubs that came up. But you work so hard to get where you want to go, but one of them may miss out in terms of getting into the Premier League. They might have to do it the hard way. Yeah,
it's so often the third team that doesn't quite manage to do it in the playoffs. I know. Whether it's, I don't know why, but...
I know Sunderland and Middlesbrough are in the playoff positions as well, aren't they? I think they're 4th and 5th, if I'm not wrong.
That's quite tight for the playoff spots
very
as
tight,
well. So, but there we go. Anyway, that's all for today's episode of The Rest is Football. A reminder that we've got something a little bit different for you on Wednesday. We've got an in-depth interview with former Southampton boss Russell Martin. I think you'll really enjoy that. He opened up about the challenges and lessons he learnt at Saints, as well as talking about how difficult his upbringing has shaped him as a person and what plans and hopes he has for the future. So I encourage you to give that a listen. But for now, goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me, and have a great week.